Have you ever felt it? Suddenly, out of nowhere, a name echoing in your mind, a face you haven't seen in ages pressing against your thoughts like a quiet storm? You try to brush it off, but it lingers. The moment stretches, your chest tightens. You look around, wondering why the air feels different, heavier, like someone's energy is leaning into yours from across a distance you can't quite name. What if it's not random? What if they're thinking about you right now? And that's exactly why this video found you. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. Not after everything I've felt. Not after all the moments I couldn't explain. Those moments that stopped me mid-sentence, made me pause mid-step, as if someone's energy had just brushed past mine. My name is Nova, and if you've somehow landed here, maybe, just maybe, the person you're thinking about right now is also thinking of you. Maybe this isn't a random video. Maybe it's a spiritual echo, a soft whisper from the universe confirming what your heart already suspects. It's happened to me more times than I can count. I'll be in the middle of a quiet afternoon, sipping tea, lost in thought, and then it hits me. A sudden pull towards someone I haven't spoken to in months, maybe years. Their name appears in my mind like a flash. Their smile, their voice, the way they used to laugh, it all returns, vivid and full, as if no time has passed. And I'll sit there wondering, why now? Why them? Out of all the faces in the world, why did this memory surface so suddenly, so powerfully? I used to doubt it. I used to chalk it up to random memory. But not anymore. Because what I've learned, what I've truly come to understand is that thoughts carry energy. Real energy. And when someone focuses on you with emotion, especially someone you've once been deeply connected to, their energy moves. It travels. It finds its way to you. Sometimes softly, like a memory floating in through a half-open window. Sometimes like a jolt, an electric reminder that they still hold your name somewhere deep in their soul. I know it sounds impossible. I know what the logical mind wants to say, that it's just nostalgia, that it's just emotional debris floating to the surface. But if you've been on this path long enough, this journey of awakening, of noticing, of listening, you begin to realize that certain thoughts don't come uninvited. They're sent, and they arrive when you're still enough to receive them. That's what brought me here. That's what urged me to create this message. Because I believe someone out there is meant to hear this right now. Someone like you. Someone who keeps feeling the presence of a person who is no longer physically close, but who might be sending energetic waves across space and time, trying to reach you in the only way they know how. Have you ever had that moment where you're doing the most ordinary thing, brushing your hair, folding laundry, walking down the street, and suddenly you feel your chest tighten, your eyes well up for no reason? It's not random. You're not going crazy. That's the energetic thread being tugged. That's someone on the other side, thinking about you, remembering a version of you that lives in their mind so vividly it breathes, and their memory, raw and unresolved, activates something inside you. I used to fight it. I used to try and bury those moments with distractions, but no matter how busy I made myself, the feeling would find me again. Until one day I stopped running. I sat with it. I let the memory come. I closed my eyes and asked, "Are you thinking of me too?" And in that silence, I felt it, a warmth, a pressure, a pull. It was like being seen by someone who wasn't in the room, like being remembered in a way that wasn't just mental, it was spiritual. And now, you're here, listening, feeling, wondering if what you're experiencing is real. I'm telling you it is. You didn't find this video by chance. It found you because your energy, your longing, your curiosity, your love is being met halfway. This is what happens when two souls reach for each other at the same time without even realizing it. Maybe they've been silent. Maybe they're pretending they've moved on. But energy doesn't lie. And if you've been feeling their presence, if their name keeps showing up in your mind like a quiet chant, then something deeper is moving. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to unravel this thread piece by piece, because I want to show you that you're not alone, and more importantly, that this connection is not in your head. Let's begin this journey together. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why you felt them today, and why they felt you too. It's strange, isn't it? How some people can leave your life, disappear from your daily routine, and yet their presence somehow lingers. Like a scent that never quite fades from your favorite sweater, or a song that plays in the background of your thoughts, no matter what you're doing. Their energy clings to you, not out of obsession, not because you're holding on too tightly, but because something deeper happened between your soul and theirs. Something your conscious mind still doesn't fully understand. I used to think I was just overly sensitive, that maybe I was imagining the way my heart would randomly tighten on certain days, or why I'd feel this sudden rush of warmth as if someone had wrapped invisible arms around me from a distance. But I've learned something that changed how I view these moments. Energy doesn't fade when a person walks away, especially when emotion is involved, especially when love, pain, or longing has been exchanged between two hearts. That energy embeds itself into the space between souls. It imprints. Have you ever heard of energetic cords? They're not physical, of course, but they exist in the same way that radio waves do. Unseen, yet powerful. When you form a strong emotional bond with someone, a cord is created between you. It's like a spiritual tether. And when that cord is active, when the other person is thinking of you or missing you or even dreaming about you, you'll feel it. Not always as a clear thought. Sometimes it's just an ache, a shiver, a moment of staring off into space and not knowing why your chest feels heavy all of a sudden. I remember one night I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing and turning, this strange energy hovering over me like static. My mind kept drifting back to someone I hadn't spoken to in what felt like forever. No messages, no closure, just silence. But that night, it was like they were there, in the room with me. I could feel the weight of their thoughts. It was as if they were whispering without words. And I knew, in my bones, they were thinking of me. That kind of energy doesn't lie. Our thoughts are not just mental noise, they are signals. Every time someone thinks of you, especially with emotion, they're sending out a vibration. And if you're sensitive, if your heart is open enough, you'll pick up on that vibration like a radio dial tuning into a distant station. You may not catch every word, but you'll feel the frequency, the resonance, the pull. Sometimes it shows up as dreams. You wake up sweating, breathless, heart racing, and you know it wasn't just a dream. Other times it's music. You'll hear a specific song that meant something between you two, and it'll start playing out of nowhere. In a store, on a random playlist, even in a passing car. And when that happens, your body reacts before your brain can even process it. That's not just coincidence, that's a soul echo. I've talked to so many people who say the same thing. They'll be going about their day when suddenly that person will just appear in their mind. Uninvited, unexpected. And it's not just a memory. It's a feeling. It's like your soul is being tugged from somewhere far away, and it's trying to tell you, hey, someone is thinking of you. Someone hasn't let go. These cords can stretch across months, years, even lifetimes. And sometimes you feel them more when the other person is hurting, when they're lonely, when they're remembering what they lost. You'll feel their regret before they even realize they're regretting. And yes, I know, it's overwhelming. It's exhausting to carry the weight of someone else's unspoken feelings. But it's also confirmation that what you felt wasn't one-sided. That connection you still ache over, it was real. Energy is memory, and love, especially spiritual love, doesn't just vanish. It lingers in your aura, it imprints on your heart, and it leaves fingerprints on your soul. even if they walked away, even if they forgot your birthday or ignored your messages or made you feel like you didn't matter. Somewhere deep down, they know. They still know. And their energy knows where to find you. That's why you feel them at 2 a.m. That's why their name floats into your mind while you're driving or brushing your teeth or standing in line at the store. It's not because you're stuck in the past. It's because they're sending you something in the present. Whether they're aware of it or not, they're reaching out in the only language the soul truly understands: energy. And trust me, I know it's hard to sit with that kind of invisible contact. But when you realize you're not imagining it, when you understand that their energy still remembers yours, it changes everything. You start to trust your intuition more. You stop calling yourself crazy. You begin to see the beauty in those invisible threads, because they mean you mattered. And in some ways, you still do. There's something no one tells you about soul connections. Not the books, not the videos, not even the people who say they've been through it. What they don't say is that sometimes the connection itself is so intense, so raw, that it scares one or both people involved. Not because it's toxic, not because it's wrong, but because it's real. And real love, the kind that mirrors back everything you are and everything you're hiding from, that kind of love, it shakes something loose in you. It breaks patterns. It cracks open the old armor. I learned this the hard way. There was someone in my life who didn't just see me. They saw through me. Like they'd known me across 1,000 lifetimes and had been waiting for this one just to find me again. The moment our eyes met, there was this rush. Like my soul stood up and said, "There you are." But that kind of recognition? It wasn't gentle. It was wild. Terrifying, even. And I saw the same fear in their eyes, too. It's what so many people now call the twin flame dynamic. But forget the label for a second. This isn't about trends or cute quotes on social media. This is about what happens when two souls are cut from the same fabric and finally collide in the physical world. There's fire, yes. There's passion. But there's also chaos. Because they reflect back to you every shadow, every wound, every unhealed part of your being. And if someone isn't ready to face that reflection, they run. That's what happened. One day we were laughing, talking about forever, feeling like nothing else mattered. The next, silence. A slow fade. A quiet retreat that felt like 1,000 knives in my chest. And at first I thought it was me. That maybe I was too much, too intense, too emotional. But the truth was, they weren't running from me. They were running from the part of themselves they saw in me. From the love that asked them to grow. You see, when someone recognizes you at a soul level, they can't unsee it. They might try to act like you were just a moment, just a phase. But deep down, something in them shifted. They might bury it under distractions, under new people, under work or distance, but that connection lingers like smoke. And no matter how far they run, some part of them is still tethered, still haunted, still drawn back to the way your energy made them feel. And it's not always because they didn't care. In fact, the more someone cares, the more terrifying it becomes when they realize they don't know how to hold that kind of emotion. When love demands transformation, not just comfort, many people shut down. They retreat into their old wounds, their old patterns, and they convince themselves that it's better to let go than to dive into the fire of becoming. But I want you to understand this deeply. If someone ran from you after such a soul-deep connection, it doesn't mean you imagined it. It doesn't mean it wasn't real. It means it was too real. It hit them in a place they weren't ready to open, and no matter how far they go, that experience has now become a part of their inner landscape, a part they'll never fully be able to erase. Have you noticed how they still show up in subtle ways? How their name still pops up in conversation? Or how they randomly view your story? Or send a like months later as if testing the waters? That's the dance. That's the energy still pulling, even if they won't admit it. Even if their pride or fear or ego won't let them say what they feel, deep down, the connection is still alive, still breathing, still trying to find a way to come to peace with itself. I spent so long blaming myself, asking what I did wrong, wondering why someone who said they felt everything I felt could turn their back and vanish. But over time, I began to understand. Some people aren't afraid of losing you. They're afraid of becoming who they're meant to be when they're with you. And that's a far more terrifying thing to face. So if you're sitting there wondering why you still feel them, why they still visit your mind like a restless ghost, it's because they're not gone, not in spirit, not in memory, not in soul. And the pull you feel isn't just one-sided. It's a loop, a frequency that hasn't been turned off, only dialed down, waiting for the courage to tune back in. Most people only believe in what they can see, what they can hold, what they can measure. But the most powerful connections, the ones that stay with us, that stir our emotions and change our lives, aren't bound by the physical world. They live in a space beyond logic, beyond time, beyond what most would dare to name. And once you've experienced that kind of energy, you can't unfeel it. There's a realm, a layer of reality that isn't talked about often. But it's where so many of these unspoken feelings live. Some call it the fifth dimension. Some call it the astral plane. I just call it the in-between. It's the place your soul travels when your body sleeps. It's the space between your thoughts, where memories become more than memory, and where love continues to speak long after words have failed. I know that might sound wild. I used to roll my eyes too, but when you've woken up from a dream so vivid, so emotionally charged that your chest feels heavy for hours afterward, you start to realize, not all dreams are dreams. Sometimes they're visits. Sometimes they're soul conversations that take place while the ego is asleep. I've had dreams that left me in tears. Dreams where I felt them touch my hand, speak my name, look at me like they'd been waiting for lifetimes. And I would wake up stunned, shaken, quiet. Because how do you explain something that real? Something that left fingerprints on your heart. And then there's the random heart flutters. The sudden shift in mood for no reason. The way your body responds like it's being pulled into a memory you haven't thought about in ages. That's the 5D connection. That's their energy crossing into yours without permission, without even meaning to sometimes. It's like two radios still tuned to the same channel even if no one's speaking into the mic. Have you ever suddenly looked at your phone, fully expecting a message from them? Not hoping, expecting. As if your body already knew. Or maybe you heard a song you hadn't heard in years, but the timing, it hit too perfectly. Like someone pressed play from another timeline just to say, I still feel you. That's the pull. That's the invisible thread reaching through realms to remind you this isn't over. At least, not in the way you thought. This type of connection doesn't operate on the same rules as everyday relationships. It's not about constant contact or checking in or even closure. It's deeper than that. It's soul deep. It's about two energies that found each other in a crowded world and recognized something they couldn't name. And once that happens, once you've been seen at that level, you never fully go back to sleep. I've talked to people who say they can feel their person's emotions from miles away. They'll be doing just fine and then suddenly feel this wave of sadness, of nostalgia, of longing, and they know it's not theirs. It's theirs. The one who still thinks of them, the one who still dreams about what could have been. And you know what's wild? The more open you are, the stronger the signal becomes. When you stop doubting your intuition, when you stop brushing off those nudges, you start hearing the messages more clearly. It's like tuning an old radio. When you finally hit the right frequency, the static clears. You don't just think of them, you feel them. Their fear, their confusion, their love, their regret. It filters into your energy in whispers, not words. There was a time I thought I was making it all up. that maybe my heart was just looking for excuses to keep someone alive in my thoughts. But then I started documenting the patterns, the dreams, the synchronicities, the gut feelings that turned out to be true, and over time, I stopped questioning what I knew in my bones. This isn't fantasy, it's a language we've forgotten how to speak, but our souls? They never stop speaking it. So if you're sitting there, overwhelmed by the pull, wondering why you can't move on, why you still feel them in your dreams, in your bones, in your breath, maybe it's because they're not trying to let go either. Maybe you're both still talking, just not with words. Some connections don't need words. They speak in silence, in the heavy kind of silence that fills a room like fog. You know the one I mean. The kind that lingers long after someone's gone, when the laughter fades and the space they once took up remains eerily loud with their absence. It's that stillness where their name still echoes, where their presence still breathes even though they haven't reached out, haven't said a thing. That's the space they remember you in, quietly, secretly, sometimes even painfully. I've always believed that just because someone doesn't speak doesn't mean they're not feeling. Some people never learn how to say what's clawing at their chest. They bury it, mask it, laugh it off, but deep down, the soul keeps score. The energy keeps whispering, and even if they've convinced everyone else that they've moved on, they haven't convinced themselves. There were days when I felt their thoughts brush against me like wind. Gentle, unexpected, but real. And it always came at the strangest times, when I was calm, unguarded, almost peaceful. That's when the wave would hit. And it felt like they were thinking about me, replaying something we'd shared, reliving some version of us that only existed between our memories. I never got a message. I never heard the words I wanted to hear, but I didn't need to, because their silence was loud enough. Because when someone remembers you in silence, you can feel it. It's that chill at the base of your spine, that sudden swell in your chest that makes no sense, that urge to cry for reasons you can't explain. That's not just emotion, that's recognition. That's a soul still orbiting yours in ways the world can't see. I think about the nights they probably sat there, scrolling, hovering over my name, my photo, my presence, thinking about reaching out but never pressing send. Do you know how many almosts live inside that kind of silence? How many regrets? How many questions they're probably still too afraid to ask? Sometimes they don't come back because they believe too much time has passed. Or maybe they think you've outgrown them, that they lost the right to your softness when they didn't know how to hold it the first time. Or maybe they still carry the weight of what they didn't say, and they're afraid that if they reach out now, it'll shatter the image of the person they tried so hard to become without you. But here's the thing. Souls don't forget each other, no matter how far they drift. They carry fragments. They carry sounds and smells and flashbacks of the way your laugh felt like home. They carry the energy of that one conversation they still play in their mind, wondering what they could have said differently. And in that quiet remembering, they keep you alive. There's a kind of longing that never gets loud. It stays buried in the spaces between obligations and routines. It walks beside them when they're alone in their car, when they hear your favorite song in a cafe, when they see someone with your hairstyle in a crowd. It grips them suddenly, unexpectedly. And they feel it, your name, your presence, your warmth, like a ghost that won't go away, and they won't talk about it. Not to their friends, not even to themselves. They'll pretend it's nothing, but they'll go back and read old messages, or scroll through photos they promised they'd delete, or remember something small, like the way you used to say their name, and it'll hit them like a wave they never saw coming. You exist in their silence, not because they forgot you, but because remembering you hurts more than pretending they don't. And that's the bittersweet truth of it. They think about you in the stillness, in the quiet, in the hidden corners of their mind they don't let anyone else into. So if you've been wondering why their name won't leave your thoughts, maybe it's because yours never left theirs either. At some point, I had to stop asking why they left and start asking what scared them so much. And when I finally faced that question, everything changed. Because the truth was harder to swallow than I expected. It wasn't me they were running from. It was everything they weren't ready to feel. Everything they'd buried under years of protection, distraction, and denial. I was just the mirror. I was just the one who made them look. When someone meets a soul that feels like home, it doesn't always feel safe. Sometimes it feels like standing on the edge of a cliff, heart pounding, knowing the next step could either be flight or fall. And not everyone is ready to take that step. Not everyone has the strength to face what love reflects back at them. I had to learn the difference between rejection and resistance. One says, "I don't want you." The other says, "I don't know how to handle what you make me feel." And that's what this was, resistance. Not to my love, not to who I was, but to the growth that love would have required. Because real love, the soul level kind, it demands honesty. It burns away illusions. It won't let someone stay small. And they weren't ready for that. So they pushed it away. They pulled back. Maybe they ghosted. Maybe they made excuses. Maybe they convinced themselves you were just a phase. But their soul knows better. Because if it was nothing, they wouldn't still feel it now. If it was nothing, they wouldn't still be in your thoughts. That's not how nothing works. People often say timing is everything, and I've come to believe that's true, but not in the way most people think. It's not just about calendars or clocks or chance encounters. It's about emotional readiness, soul readiness. You can meet the right person at the wrong level of your own growth, and that disconnect creates chaos. Because the soul wants to leap, but the ego wants control. The soul whispers stay, but the fear screams run. I remember staring at the ceiling one night, tears on my cheeks, replaying our last conversation. I kept thinking, how could something that felt so right just end? How could someone say they felt it too, and then act like it never mattered? But then I realized they were overwhelmed, not by me, but by what loving me would have asked of them. Vulnerability, accountability, transformation. They weren't ready to be seen that deeply. They weren't ready to give up the mask they'd worn for so long, and loving me meant removing that mask. It meant showing up as their full self, not just the version they thought the world wanted. And for some people, that kind of exposure feels like danger. It feels like death to the old self. And they'll do anything to avoid it, even walk away from the very thing they've been searching for. But hear me when I say this. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't love too deeply. You didn't ask for too much. You weren't too intense or too emotional or too available. You were real. And real is rare. Real is terrifying to people who've never felt safe enough to be real themselves. So if they ran, it wasn't because you weren't worth staying for. It was because staying would have required them to become someone they weren't ready to be. And that's not your burden to carry. That's their soul's work. That's their journey. But don't ever confuse their fear for your failure. You showed up with love. You offered connection. You were the mirror, yes. But you were also the light. And maybe, just maybe, their soul still aches for that light. Maybe that's why you feel them now. Why their energy won't quite let go. Because deep down, a part of them knows they ran from the very thing that was meant to heal them. Every now and then you get this strange feeling like someone is trying to say something to you, but they're not saying it out loud. It comes as a wave, unexpected, a little shaky, but familiar, like someone touched the edges of your aura just to remind you they still exist. And the longer you sit with it, the clearer it gets. You start to wonder, are they trying to tell me something? Is their soul reaching out? I've come to believe that yes, they are. Not always consciously, but their higher self, oh, it remembers you. It remembers everything. The moments they couldn't find the courage to hold your gaze, the things they wanted to confess but choked back out of fear. The way your presence made them feel both exposed and safe at the same time. Those moments never vanished. They live in them, quietly. And their soul, it speaks, even in the silence. When I tune into that kind of energy, I don't hear words exactly. I feel them, like echoes across time. I feel their regret, their curiosity, their longing. It's like walking into a room where someone's just left. You can still feel their warmth in the air. That's how their soul speaks. It lingers. And if you're still enough, if you're willing to listen beneath the noise of your own mind, you might hear it too. Sometimes the message is simple. I'm sorry. Sometimes it's a whisper of, I still think about you. And other times it's more complex. I wasn't ready. I didn't know how to love you. I didn't know how to love myself. You awakened something in me, and I didn't know what to do with it. I ran, not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much and felt completely unprepared to hold that kind of love. And the strangest thing, you might be the only person in their life who ever made them feel that way. That's why they revisit your energy. That's why they still carry traces of you in their daily life, even if they never mention your name again. People assume closure comes from final conversations or dramatic goodbyes, but often it comes through finally understanding what the connection meant on a soul level. I don't know if they'll ever say it out loud. Some people never do. But if you're still feeling them, if you still sense their pull, it's probably because they're still wondering too. Wondering if you're okay. Wondering if you've truly let go. Wondering if you ever felt what they felt or if it was all just in their head. And that's the irony, isn't it? You're both sitting in different places, carrying the same questions, nursing the same ache. You don't need to chase them. You don't need to force a conversation or beg for answers. Their soul has already spoken. Their silence has already written a story. And you've heard it all, even if it didn't come in the way you expected. You felt the message in your body, in your dreams, in the quiet moments that made you stop and place a hand on your chest. They still remember you. Maybe not in the way they once did, but in a way that matters, in a way that shapes them. And when they look back, when their mind drifts into that sacred space of reflection, it's your light they see. It's your love they measure everything else against. That doesn't mean you wait. It doesn't mean you put your life on hold, hoping they'll return. But it does mean you honor what was real. It means you trust that the connection served a purpose, even if it didn't unfold the way you wanted it to. And most of all, it means you listen, not to the silence, but to what the silence is really saying. And now that you've heard all of this, felt all of it moving through you like a quiet storm, what will you do with this energy? What will you make of this connection that refuses to fade? This tether you never chose, yet somehow still honors like a sacred memory written into your bones. I've asked myself that same question more times than I can count. Because feeling them, knowing they're still thinking about me, it used to trap me. It used to make me wait. I'd hold my breath through weeks of silence, hoping the next vibration in my chest would be followed by a message. I'd read signs into every small thing, chasing the invisible trail of breadcrumbs they were never brave enough to leave on purpose. But one day, I realized, just because someone is thinking of you, doesn't mean they're ready for you. Just because they miss your energy, doesn't mean they know what to do with it. Their thoughts are not permission slips for you to pause your own life. And yes, they may be thinking about you right now. They might be sitting in their car, hand hovering over their phone, wondering if they should reach out. But you can't hold yourself hostage to their maybe. The truth is, your energy is powerful, and just because it still speaks to them doesn't mean you owe it to them to wait around. That longing you feel, it's valid. That pull, it's real. But the most powerful thing you can do with it is transmute it. Let it become a mirror that shows you how deep you're capable of loving, how sensitive you are to energy, how beautifully intuitive your soul is. Let it teach you, without tying you down. When I finally stopped trying to get them to see me and started seeing myself, everything changed. I started writing again. I danced more. I cried, sure, but I also breathed deeper. I stopped asking why they left and started asking why I kept putting my worth in their hands. And slowly their energy stopped feeling like a ghost and started feeling like a message. One that didn't need to be answered. One that didn't need to be fixed, just understood. So if you're still feeling them, let it be okay. Let it mean they remember. Let it mean you mattered. But don't confuse a soul echo with a soul path. Don't confuse a thought with a commitment. Feel it, honor it. Then gently bring the focus back to you. Because the truth is, this video didn't find you to remind you of them. It found you to bring you back to yourself. To the version of you that existed before the silence, before the pain, before the questioning. You're not broken. You're blooming. And sometimes all it takes is one honest moment, one soft reminder like this one, to bring you back to your own magic. Thank you for spending this time with me. My name is Nova, and it means more than I can say that we shared this moment. If this touched your heart in any way, if it helped you feel seen or a little less alone, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. There's so much more we'll explore together. And maybe, just maybe, the reason they couldn't forget you is because you were the awakening they never saw coming.